Alright, so we are back on the Ashish and Ryan Sports and Political Podcast. Today is a very politically themed show with there not being much in sports to talk about. Obviously, there will be a lot tomorrow, and we'll get to that near the end of this segment. But I've been talking all show about how there is one warning that I have to give to the government of the United States, especially the foreign policy side. The Rex Tillersons of the world, President Trump, I don't know, Nikki Haley, if you want to consider that. This Iran rebellion thing is something that's very needed, very important, very influential. I believe that it's something that's needed to happen for the Iranian people to gain their freedom. But we have to be very, very careful with what happens. In the sense, we can't let Iran become Syria. We can't let Iran, become a civil war nation. Because here's what's going to happen as a result. What's going to happen is a vacuum is created. It happened in Iraq. It happened in Syria. It's going to happen here. And guess what ISIS wants? Another place where they can where they have a safe haven, a stronghold. And you know where they want it? In the place where the citizens don't follow their type of Islam. Iran. The Iranian government, very anti-ISIS. Same with Saudi Arabia. The ISIS fighters would love to settle there. So, and another major component here, we always talk about ISIS with nuclear weapons as the biggest threat anyone could ever imagine. Syria doesn't have that. Iraq, as far as I know, doesn't have that. Afghanistan doesn't have that. Guess who does? Guess who has a major threat there? Iran. Iran has that nuclear threat that if there's a vacuum created, a large enough one where ISIS can take control of the government, they have access to that. My God, that is the biggest fear of any Western country in the world. It should be, at least. Because ISIS gets to essentially become the power brokers of the Middle East instead of the mullahs, which, by the way, compared to ISIS, are a little bit more reasonable. They become the power brokers of the Middle East. The Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, they become the major players in Middle Eastern government. ISIS now has control of nuclear weapons. And if we want to stop this, we're going to have to go into war again. And people are going to lose their lives. This is the threat we live with if we allow this protest to go too far to descend into violence, for a vacuum to be created, because this is what happened exactly with Syria, and we're dealing with nuclear weapons here, not chemical ones. Okay? This is a major, major issue which we have to look at, and this, let me tell you, is something that's very plausible. 2 things we have to do to safeguard this. Number 1, okay, we can't go into Iran. They won't let us. Syria is different because Syria is not necessarily anti-US. Iran clearly is. So Iran, while fighting the projected terrorists that come as a result of this vacuum, could also be fighting us, making it a major issue. 2 things we need to do. Okay? Number 1, get rid of that stupid Iran nuclear agreement so we can get rid of the Iranian plutonium, uranium, and essentially their nuclear arsenal, so that threat is wiped off the board. And second of all, you've got to come up with a diplomatic solution to actually give people their rights. Because you can't fight for it anymore. You can't fight a civil war like you did in Syria. You can't give up people's lives like that. What you need to be able to do is, I know it's either a diplomatic solution or, okay, sanction the bejesus out of Iran, keep the sanctions, because obviously they're not doing anything, and let the country run dry. Let the country run dry. Alright? That's your only option in order to get people freedom. You need a serious rebellion, okay, which you can't be a part of. That's the caveat. Or, best case scenario, okay, I know this isn't very conservative thought. I think it is now. It's much more like that now because we've been so accustomed to this. We've hopefully learned our lesson, but we can't do anything anymore. We can't do anything anymore about this. The Iranians are going to have to fight their government. We can't fight for them because we're putting our country, our national security, or our soldiers at serious risk, picking fights we shouldn't. So the best case scenario, okay, come up with a diplomatic solution. First of all, rip up that Iran deal so that they don't get the money, they don't get the power. And then, don't get involved. You can't get involved because it's too risky. It's too stupid. We've already seen this not work. It's useless to do it again. Like Hillary Clinton is planning to do in Syria. It's ridiculous to do that. We can't do that. We should have learned our lessons already. It's ridiculous to go after Assad. We shouldn't go after the mullahs. We shouldn't give them power to nuclear weapons. But we can't interfere in their war anymore. We can't interfere in their freedom fights. You know why? Because it puts us at risk. So, please, President Trump, I've liked your tweets. I'm okay with them. I have no problem with them. This tweet about the Iran Revolution, though it is right, if you follow through on it the way I hope you don't, there could be serious issues. And now I know this sounds the opposite of how I want to deal with North Korea, but North Korea is different. North Korea is a one-time thing where you can put a permanent stop to the way they do business, to their threat, by using your force against them to solve the problem in an extortionistic way. In a sort of, we're going to bribe you through fear type of way. That's the opposite of what I'm saying here, because Iran has a developed political system. They're sophisticated. They're shrewd. ISIS is going to be in Iran, not in North Korea. And guess what? Iran has nuclear weapons now. So we need to be a lot more careful, a lot more strict, a lot more diligent, paying attention to the mistakes we've already made in the Middle East in order to thwart a potentially extremely serious problem that, if we're too instinctual in solving it, will not end well. I guarantee you, will not end well on any fronts. The best case scenario would be what's happening in Syria. And we don't want our people getting killed because of needless wars. We don't want that. So, that's all. That's all for today. Coming up tomorrow, it's a lot more sports-centric. The post-game analysis of the Cavs and Celtics showdown tonight on ESPN. Very fun to talk about. Hopefully it's a good game. I don't think it will be. I think Cleveland wins by 20. Preview of the National Championship game. I also don't think that'll be a close game. I also hope that's a good game. And what else? I had one more major topic to talk about. Yeah, more NFL draft talk, and of course NFL playoff preview. We're getting closer and closer. It's going to be a fun sports day, and obviously the president's going to give us something to talk about tomorrow. So there will be a fair share of politics tomorrow. A bit more political centric today, but that's warranted given the discussions in our country. And tomorrow I'll talk a little bit more about race, about healthcare. I've already talked about taxes and economics, and a little bit on social policy. But to preview, we have a big sports show tomorrow. So tune in. It's going to be a mix of everything. Very fun, very exciting, very thoughtful. So goodbye, everybody, and hope to tune in tomorrow.